She was one of the hearts of her community, the kind of cafe owner who remembered your name, your order, and probably how you liked your coffee without even asking. In a quiet Connecticut town where everyone knows everyone, she built a life rooted in warmth and connection. Photos show a devoted mother and a familiar beloved face around town.
She was fired for an EMS assist. They have 2 victims down there.
But now, that loving cafe owner is tied to tragedy. She's dead, and an alleged killer is in custody. And just months before her death, she sent out a warning, a cry for help that now feels even more haunting in hindsight. We're on the case, presented by Law & Crime. I'm Chris Stewart. Carrie Stetson. It seems she was the kind of person that makes living in a small town fun. She owned a quaint cafe in a quiet town. The friendly face that you would see when you stepped inside, someone who always had something good for you no matter the kind of day you were having. Carrie owned the Railway Cafe in Winsted, Connecticut. It's open for breakfast and lunch in a quintessential New England town nestled in the foothills of the Berkshire Mountains. Population, just 7,700. When you went to the Railway Cafe, not only would you find Carrie, but for a period of time, you would find her husband, Leon. Here he is on March 7th of last year on the cafe's Facebook page with the caption that reads, "Friday specials. Stop by and say happy birthday to the big guy." Here he is in 2022 having a laugh as he tries a couple of the soups on the menu with the hashtag Silver Fox. At home, it appears that Carrie and Leon raised 3 children. Here he is with the family in a picture from the graduation of one of their kids, a proud moment. And when you look at this picture, I mean, this family, they look great. But behind the scenes and away from the smiles of social media and taste testing menu items, a lot of scary things apparently had been going on with this family in recent months. We have court records that show that Leon allegedly struggled with crack cocaine. And the police report is heavily redacted that we have, but a witness appears to have told police there was turmoil between Leon and Carrie for years. And that turmoil was allegedly caused by drug use and infidelity. This witness also said, quote, "He always had a feeling that redacted would kill redacted." The situation between Leon and Carrie apparently became so bad that in April of this year, Carrie went to the police. Carrie got a protective order against Leon in April. He was ordered to have no contact with Carrie, and he had to stay away from her home. Court records allege that on April 15th, Leon was arrested for disorderly conduct, interfering with a protective order, and criminal mischief in the 2nd degree. He was given a $1,000 bond, and he posted 7%. So that means he had to put up $70 to get out of jail. That case is still listed as pending in online Connecticut court records. Now, in the arrest report that we have, the witness alleges that Leon physically assaulted a redacted name while he was allegedly high on crack cocaine. Carrie had a protective order and continued living her life, continued running the Railway Cafe. Less than a month later, the Railway Cafe posted this picture of Carrie. She still has that great smile, even though she had just gone through something allegedly so traumatic as being assaulted by her husband. But in this picture, she appears happy as she celebrates Mother's Day with her kids. It is noticeable as you look at this family picture that someone is missing from the other family pictures we have from years past. Of course, we're talking about Leon Stetson. Now, sadly, we have seen in case after case, protective orders. They may offer some legal protection, but too often it becomes just a piece of paper when it matters most.
He went to the ambulance, Northwest Medic 3. Meet the PD for 2 parties down. Suspected arrest for both. 9 Delta 1. 2 parties down. Believed to be an arrest. Not response.
That's the call that was put out to emergency responders to rush to Carrie's home on June 8th at 9:41 at night. All right, guys, real quick. Running a business is tough enough, but why make it harder doing things manually or relying on dozens of apps that don't talk to each other? That is where our sponsor, Odoo comes in. Odoo is an all-in-one business management platform with a full suite of integrated apps that seamlessly connect all your operations, from sales and accounting to manufacturing and even shipping. Odoo can automatically generate professional, sleek-looking sales orders, invoices, and vendor bills, and it can automatically assign sales teams, send email updates through each sales stage, and even use AI to pull reports that help with your decision making. For manufacturing, their apps can sync inventory with real-time production and purchase updates so you never run out of stock. And when it comes time for accounting, that is also fully automated. Odoo can create invoices, track expenses, and even summarize data with AI to save you hundreds of hours. The best part? You can choose your apps and even build custom workflows, so it is all fully tailored to your business needs. Take your business to the next level by consulting with an Odoo expert today for free at odoo.com/OTC. This is video of the scene the next day per WTNH, still a crime scene, still with tape as police were investigating.
And when they entered the home, they discovered blood inside.
The local police chief says a family member tried to get in touch with Carrie, and when they didn't hear from her for hours, they went over to the house. They go inside the house and they saw blood leading from the bathroom to the bedroom. At that point, they stepped outside the home and called police.
6-2, hot response, one patient still reportedly breathing.
Now, according to police officers, they entered the house and they found blood in the sink in an upstairs bathroom. Then, when they entered a bedroom, they made a terrible discovery. The exact description is redacted in the police report that we have, but police say Carrie wasn't breathing. She had been stabbed multiple times in the neck and the torso. Leon was also inside the home, and he had injuries as well. Police say he was going in and out of consciousness, and they rushed him to the hospital. They put him on a helicopter, flew him to Hartford in critical condition with a knife wound. The next day, police say they were notified that Leon was alive, and not only that, he was conscious. This is his mugshot per the Connecticut State Police from his hospital bed. Police were told that before they arrived at the hospital, Leon was allegedly already actively writing a confession. Police at this point are not giving specifics of what Leon said happened, but he did tell police that he tried to take his own life after allegedly killing Carrie. In their investigation, police say there was no sign of forced entry into Carrie's home. Police also say that they found Leon's car not too far from the house. Police looked at surveillance cameras and they were able to piece together a timeline of what allegedly happened. They say that Leon's car allegedly arrives in the neighborhood just before 2 o'clock in the afternoon that day. Their bodies wouldn't be found till 9:41 at night. Leon reportedly made some concerning posts on social media in the days and actually minutes leading up to what allegedly happened inside of Carrie's house. Police have redacted this part of the police report that we have, but there is apparently a message of note that he sent to someone on Facebook just before he arrived at Carrie's house at 1:52 in the afternoon that day. And then the day prior, a witness says that he made a concerning Facebook post, but we don't know specifically what he said in that post. Now, as far as a murder weapon, it appears that Leon told police that he did not bring it with him to Carrie's house, but he may have used something that she uses for artwork. Leon and Carrie had 3 children, as far as we can see on social media, and it appears that this is what one of them posted. You cannot imagine what a family is going through right now. These 3 children, what they are going through right now with their mom dead and their dad now facing very serious charges. It appears that the family had 3 kids. This is what one of them posted on social media in the wake of Leon's arrest. Quote, "On June 8th, my siblings, our family, and I had everything we've ever known and loved ripped away from us at the hands of our own father in cold blood. We lost our best friend, our sunshine, our warmth, our safe space, our home, our boss, our mentor, and our very own personal Martha Stewart. She is everything that made my life what it is today. She worked tirelessly to make every day special for every person she encountered. She had a way of making people feel loved, welcomed, and cared for no matter who they were. She is woven into every part of my life and every memory I hold. The loss of her is impossible to put into words, but one day I'll try to find the right ones. There will never be another person like my mom. I will never love someone like I loved my mom. I will miss my mom and her giant contagious smile forever. Instagram is used to show people only what you want them to see, but this is raw, and this is our reality now. Domestic violence is not always obvious from the outside looking in. Sometimes the people in the most danger are the ones trying their hardest to convince everyone that everything is okay. And sometimes the sickest people you know are such good actors, you believe they could never take something so vital away from their own children. Leon Stetson is now charged with murder, home invasion, and violating a protective order. A GoFundMe for Carrie's children has raised roughly $100,000. As for her restaurant, the place where Carrie made so many people feel loved and where she met people passing through northwestern Connecticut with a smile, the Railway Cafe posted on Facebook, quote, "We want to thank everyone for the incredible love, support, and kindness our family has received over the past few days. It has meant more to us than words can express. We also want to clear up some misinformation we've seen. The Railway Cafe is not permanently closing. This cafe was Mom's passion, and it's been a big part of our family's life for many years. While we take some time to navigate the days ahead, our plan is to reopen and continue serving the community that Mom loved so much. Thank you for standing with us, supporting us, and helping us honor her memory. We look forward to seeing you again soon." Now, before we get to our guest, and we're going to talk about this case and where it could go next, I do want to be clear that if you or anyone you know needs help, you can contact the Domestic Violence Hotline. The number is 1-800-799-SAFE, which is 7233. You can also text START to 88788. It is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Let's dive into this case further with Sonny Slaughter, law enforcement instructor, jury consultant. Always great to have you here on Law and Crime. Especially understanding these types of cases. And sadly, we've seen, domestic violence cases like this, where it appears that the victim did everything right when it comes to what you're supposed to do. And I don't know what you're supposed to do in these cases, but she got the protective order, and yet this still allegedly happened. I know you read through the police report too. Just what stood out to you about this?
That she did everything that she was supposed to do. And that, we kind of talk behind the scenes that domestic violence is not often an ongoing crisis, but it is like situational. And I think that's where people tend to sometimes think that domestic violence, every second, every moment, that there are no good times. But this is, these are situational moments and opportunist moments and things where rage and outrage and anger become the catalyst for this type of heinous murder. But in this case, Carrie Stetson, who is the victim in this case, she sensed it. She knew something was wrong. She knew that I don't know how many years their relationship was like this, but she knew that she needed to actually get some stuff documented and make a change to save her life. She did all the right things that we tell people. There is a process that law enforcement and victim service providers and others, and even the courts, tell victims to follow for safety, because leaving is the most dangerous time. She did all of that. And what stood out to me was that he still intentionally murdered her. Like, he confessed.
He did, and you think of, he just drove to her house, according to police, and I think of her as this, and you see in people now kind of honoring her and her memory, and she owns this cafe in a, beautiful little town in Connecticut. And, she was just a real fixture in the community. And I think part of it too is like, okay, so she gets the, this protective order, but then at the same time, it's like, what is a victim of domestic violence supposed to do? Where professionally, she is in this town a public figure in a sense. So people know where she's going to be.
Yeah.
Her husband knows where she is going to be and where she works, because he, it appears, was a fixture in this restaurant for a period of time. He knows where she lives.
Yeah.
And it appears that she lived alone. And it's like, you look at this and it's like, what more can someone like Carrie Stetson do when you're in this kind of situation?
You know, I've always said, and I used to be not only I used to lead a domestic violence organization, formerly the state coordinator for the Alabama Silent Witness Initiative. And what you say is you tell people you put a safety plan in place. And I have shown up at the hospital with individuals who have been in the ER, and doctors and nurses have called me, can you come and have a conversation? And I've had this kind of conversation differently than an organization might have it, because I'm a one-on-one individual, and I'm not telling them, look, grab your stuff, get your kids if you have kids, and get out right away. Because most often people have to plan and be very strategic when they decide to leave. So my first thing would have been to tell her to do all of the things that she probably did do, to make sure that she told people that were around her, which she did, because apparently that was something that was indicated. People knew that she was in fear, and that she go and get a protective order. But she did all of that. And like you said, she had a place of business. So this was not a woman, and we always, and a woman or a person, and I have to be clear about a person who was a victim. This was not an individual who was a victim that would go into a shelter. Okay. We always think if they go into a shelter and go get those services, they're going to be safer. Not necessarily. She was a mother, a daughter, a business owner. So she could not just drop everything with her business, leave it, and never return to it. She did all of the things that she needed to do. She took out the order. I'm sure she took very cautious steps. But when you have a predator, and this is what I'll say Leon Stetson was a predator who was determined to harass, stalk, and then ultimately murder her intentionally, in my opinion. You can take all the precautions in the world, but somebody that has that kind of determination, if you don't see them coming like in fear or anger, and he went to her home. So, and he knew where she was. So you don't automatically, she may have opened the door, not even knowing that was him. He may have gone in. And I'm saying him, but other people do this. It's just hard to figure out what else can we do for people to protect themselves when they've done everything that they could possibly do. Railway Cafe was in the town. People, that was the name of her business, her cafe. It was called Railway Cafe, a nice small community, well known, well loved, well established. And she still could not stay safe. We've even had people, and I'm sure you know this, and I don't know if we've had this conversation, that have been murdered at the courthouse.
Yeah. There have been, and the cases where people get into altercations in the parking lot of the courthouse. There was a case earlier this year out of Indianapolis that sadly ended with the murder of a woman, and I think it was a day prior or so, she got into an altercation with her alleged killer, who was her husband, in the parking lot of a courthouse. And it's just, there's so many of these moments, I feel like we look at them in hindsight. Yeah. And it's like, how was more not done to protect these people? And there was a line that Carrie Stetson's daughter put on social media that I thought really summed up a lot of these cases that unfortunately, we talk about. And she said, Instagram is used to show people only what you want them to see, but this is raw and this is our reality now. Domestic violence is not always obvious from the outside looking in. Sometimes the people in the most danger are the ones trying their hardest to convince everyone that everything is okay. And sometimes the sickest people, are such good actors, you believe they could never take something so vital away from their own children. And it's like, when you look at Leon Stetson in these like pictures on Facebook, and he's smiling, he's like having a margarita, he's trying the soups, and you're just sitting there saying, there's graduation pictures, and you're like, in social media, we all know is surface level. But there's so much about this case where even for the red flags that apparently he had, where they're alleging that he was addicted to crack cocaine, there's apparently infidelity in the past, it still feels like no one could have predicted that this is something that would have happened.
Exactly. And I don't know if we have any markers. You know, when I posted about appearing on your show, someone said they could have put an ankle monitor on him. The ankle monitor would have said that he was at a location, but the verification of a location and sending law enforcement to a location in time is not always the same thing as stopping the predator from doing the behavior that they are determined to do. And the words of Carrie's daughter are so profound because there is the raw and reality. And like you said, the reality is social media. People see what they want to see. And this person, this murderer, alleged murderer, Leon Stetson murdered his wife who was well known. So, and he did it and then confessed to it, knowing that he is not going to walk away from this. And that shows the level of determination that he had, the lack of care that he had, not just for Carrie, but even for his own self, for his child. None of those things matter. And what can we do? We can keep telling individuals and victims and survivors to keep following the process, do all of the things that they need to stay safe, and hope that this doesn't happen, but it will happen again. Unfortunately, we will be back here again because there is no perfect way to determine when and how an individual like him will do the final act.
And it's like, you even think of like the ankle monitor part of it. I'm reminded of the story that we've been following right now of a man named Lee Gilley, who was accused of killing his wife in Houston. He's out on bond. He's on the ankle monitor. He cuts that off. They didn't even realize till Monday he had done it. And he's currently in Italy because he fled across the Atlantic. And it's like the ankle monitor doesn't even in many of these cases until after the fact. And it's like, we keep having these moments where it's like a protective order is only a piece of paper if an alleged killer is determined to do what Leon Stetson's accused of doing.
Yeah.
Back in April, he was accused of physically assaulting Carrie Stetson, and that's where this protective order stemmed from.
Right.
He's still facing charges in that case. His bond was $1,000, and he posted 7% of that, so that's $70, and he's able to get out. And it's one of those things where, compared to murder, clearly he's never going to be out ever again,
Right.
if all of this is true. But it's like, how do you see in different states where you work? Because bond, I know, can be, it's criminal justice reform. In a lot of cases, there are stories about bond and how it can be very unfair to people accused of crimes.
Yeah.
I think in this case, you look at Leon Stetson and it's like, why was this guy allowed out
Exactly.
with $70 after he had just allegedly physically assaulted a woman? And we see these cases so many times where protective orders just don't do anything.
And that $70 is not even the 10% that's often required, because it's usually 10% of whatever the person's bond is. I think there's so many, in a domestic violence case, I just don't think that this bond or even bond period in many of these cases where we know the behavior is intentional and egregious, that people, they can make the bond, get out, and just live free until there's a court case and allow them not to suffer any of the real consequences. The ankle monitors, we have seen far too many times how many of those ankle monitors get caught, or more egregious, I think, is what you and I know what happens. The ankle monitor gets cut off, or nobody even knows the person is gone because nobody's monitoring company for the ankle monitor, and they're just like out here doing whatever and come back.
Right.
I mean, I just don't know if we have any real solutions, and particularly in this case, which is, how could he? And I'm sure this is not the first time that he put his hands on her. It's just the first time that she had enough. And that's usually what happens. That it's not the first physical incident that causes somebody to go and get a protective order, but it's usually the last incident where they've had enough and said no more, and I'm not going to do it. And if it is the first time, they want it to be the last time. She just died senselessly.
She did. And, you look at what's been alleged at this point, just based off of, this police report was heavily redacted. So there's a
Yes.
lot of literal blanks that we have to fill in
Yes.
as you go through it. But it stands out to me with what police say happened is there's no sign of forced entry. So you wonder if maybe the door was open or he goes in. This was roughly around 2:00 in the afternoon. He arrived in Carrie Stetson's neighborhood. And then after that, it appears from the police report that he says he used some kind of tool that she uses for artwork. So it's not like he brought an alleged weapon with him, perhaps, but it's like, how does that factor in? And really also if he's confessed to this, how much does that even matter at this point? Because he's going to go away for the rest of his life.
Yes.
I believe he's in his 70s as well.
Yes.
And you just, you continue, just so many of these cases, we see the red flags that have happened before. And even if he was addicted to drugs, like, Connecticut's not a state that has the death penalty, and this isn't like a death penalty debate, but you just wonder, like, what's the next step in the legal process of this, knowing what the result is likely going to be, considering the fact that he has confessed to what he allegedly did to Carrie Stetson.
I just don't think that I don't think we take these things serious enough, or some of the courts take them seriously enough. And look, I used to be a member of the United States Human Rights Network. I'm all about processes and ensuring that people who have not been convicted also have they have constitutional rights, and we have to understand that. But in some cases, I'm not saying that we ignore their constitutional rights, but we have to have other things in place to ensure that these individuals are not able to do the type of crimes that he did. Now, he was older than her, I think by 10 or 20 years.
A good amount. Like
a
more than
good
10
amount
years,
of years. So what did he have to lose? He was on drugs, allegedly. He was on drugs. She had taken out a protective order. I'm sure she let people in the restaurant in the area know that he could not come there. So he went to her home. Now, what we don't know, because the police report was so heavily redacted, did he knock on the door? Did she allow him to come in not knowing? Or like you said, did she leave her door open? I just don't think she would have left the door open, but he may have knocked on the door. She didn't realize who it was, thinking that, of course, he wouldn't come to the house potentially. And this is broad daylight, and he kills her. We still have to follow the process. We still have to ensure that people are aware that they need to stay safe, but need to take even more precautions in a case like this.
Yeah, it's just, and to your point, unfortunately, we'll probably have a conversation about a case similar to this again. And it is, and I see it in the comments, and there's a lot of times when I look at these stories, I feel it myself, as it's almost as if sometimes the effort of the court is to protect, the person who is accused more than the person who is the victim. And I know that there's probably people out there that, defense attorneys we could have on that would push back against that. But I think, these are one of those cases where you do find yourself wondering that. Just an awful case there out of Connecticut. Sunny Slaughter, law enforcement instructor, jury consultant. Always great to have you on Law and Crime. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you so much for having me.
That will do it for On the Case, presented by Law and Crime. Subscribe to us on YouTube and Spotify, and we're also now streaming on Peacock. I'm Chris Stewart. We'll see you next time.